And if you think remdesivir is beneficial, raise your hand if you think remdesivir is safe and effective. Okay, good. That only took 30 seconds, Clay. All right. No, I'll actually show you some stuff. All right, so here we go. I'm really glad that a lot of the world has actually been awakened to, been warned. It has been my attempt this entire last year and a half to try to preserve as many lives as possible of innocent human beings. That remdesivir drug that's been used throughout America since March of 2020, is responsible for 90% of all the COVID-19 deaths that you see reported right now since the pandemic. America still has more dead people from COVID-19 than any other country in the whole world. We're the only country doing one thing consistently this whole time. Other countries started using it at the end of 2020, beginning into 2021, like Brazil. Brazil now is the second highest death total of all citizens for one country. We're number one at 850,000. 90% of those, I guarantee, are from remdesivir poisoning, not from COVID-19. Brazil is up at 630,000, but there's still no other country with 700,000. Brazil in the first week of March 2021, and since then until now, have only authorized one drug to be pumped into the veins of all innocent Brazilians, and that is remdesivir. So if you want to know why those two countries are leading the world in death, the entire world, it's because of this one drug. This is a QR code. Next slide. Let's just go. If you guys don't have that, make sure you get it. I'm just going to reference this quickly. This is the Ebola trial. Well, Anthony Fauci lied and said in May 2020 that remdesivir was proven safe and effective against the Ebola virus in Africa a year earlier. This was a study done on 4 experimental drugs. Anthony Fauci said remdesivir was proven the most safe and effective, so now we're going to pump it into all the veins of Americans during COVID-19 and still today. What was the actual result when I went and looked at this study in May of 2020? Next slide. This is the table halfway through the study, the safety board for the Ebola trial that Anthony Fauci funded solely. The safety board had a humongous issue when they observed data halfway through this year-long study. Look at remdesivir up here. There's 4 drugs listed. ZMapp is first, remdesivir is next, MAB-114 is third, and then Regeneron. Everything but remdesivir is a monoclonal antibody, experimental drug. Remdesivir is the only drug on this table that has a death rate of over 50% of everyone they gave that drug to in that trial. And this is the drug Anthony Fauci selected. This is when I realized Anthony Fauci was lying to everybody. All right, next slide. This is in May of 2020 when I discovered that article. Remdesivir in November of 2020, the same year, 5 months later, the World Health Organization went public and said remdesivir should not be used on any hospitalized COVID-19 patients ever. That was in November of 2020. We're in January of 2022. Do you want to know what the NIH says is still the only FDA-approved drug to be pumped into the veins of all COVID-19 hospitalized patients? Remdesivir. I want to go to the next slide here. This is in the same article. This is on NBC News. Next slide. All right, inside this article, Gilead actually reports to the World Health Organization that their drug causes acute kidney failure. Isn't that interesting? The Associated Press has tried to fact check me on this claim. Isn't that weird? I got all this stuff. All right, next slide. It gets worse. I have been speaking nonstop that the Gilead study in March of 2020, 2 months before Anthony Fauci said remdesivir is our savior drug in all hospitals in America. I said from that study, Gilead published that within 10 days, 5 to 10 days, remdesivir caused multiple organ failure, acute kidney failure, septic shock, and hypotension in 31% of everyone they gave that drug to. So I have said nonstop, they're going to put you in the hospital, shove this drug into your veins for 5 to 10 days, and they're going to cause acute kidney failure, multiple organ failure, and you're going to die. 30% of all of you. It's currently, statistically, per the Medicare CMS data, 26.9% of all people given remdesivir in America that are Medicare aged for 5 days die. That percentage is way higher than the less than 1% of all worldwide individuals dying from COVID-19 who are infected. Now, this is something that's come to light just in the last few months. This is in October. You see the date, October 13th. This journal is called the Cardiovascular Toxicology Journal. They published in October of 2021 that remdesivir causes cardiotoxic effects. In fact, if you look at there's a sentence here I'm going to read here. Remdesivir can also induce significant cytotoxic effects to cardiomyocytes, which are heart muscle cells, that is considerably worse than chloroquine cardiotoxic effects. This drug is being published that they now know it kills heart cells, and it's more deadly to heart muscle cells than chloroquine is. Do you know what's amazing about that statement? In May of 2020, when Anthony Fauci put out his memo, he said remdesivir is the only antiviral experimental drug we're going to use for COVID-19 patients. He then bashed one drug and one drug only and said this one cannot be used because it was proven, he said, to cause heart failure, cardiotoxicity to hearts, and then death to COVID-19 infected patients. The Cardiovascular Toxicology Journal just 3 months ago said the effects of remdesivir on heart muscle tissue is deadlier and worse than chloroquine is. Do you see how big the lie is? Have they pulled this drug yet? What happens when you kill a heart? You kill a patient. So not only does it cause acute kidney failure, liver failure, it causes heart failure. In fact, go to the next slide. This is inside the actual study that was published. It says, here are some reports, and it goes through the multiple things that happen to the cardiovascular system. Sinus bradycardia, AFib, you'll see AF on there, prolonged QT interval. That slows down your heartbeat. You get really lethargic and really tired. You know how many people come out of a hospital even if they're recovered from remdesivir who can't gain their energy even a year later, and they call it long haulers COVID? It says, in few cases of cardiac arrest and complete heart block have occurred with remdesivir infusion. This is an extremely dangerous drug. Just know that. All right, next slide. I have actually made the entire world aware that the NIH had a chart called Table 2E. Raise your hand if you heard me talk about that. The whole world was downloading this chart on the NIH's website that was updated July 8th, 2021, and it listed 3 drugs that were approved for COVID-19 hospitalized patients, and it included remdesivir. Second drug was ivermectin. People were using this chart, as I told them, to print it out and give it to your doctors and hospitals and tell them ivermectin is approved. Stop lying to me and saying it's not. We have saved thousands of people's lives with that chart. Every day since I've been pumping that out to legislators, audiences, you name it, I've known they were going to update that chart. This is the December 16th update. Yeah, we have their attention. They updated this chart. It's now called Table 2F. And next to the name remdesivir, as you see on there, it says approved by the FDA for the treatment of COVID-19 in individuals older than 12. I want you to go to the next slide, further into the actual chart. Now it lists ivermectin, and they put a statement under there. It's not approved by the FDA for treatment of COVID-19. Also, the very first side effect that I pointed out to everybody that was listed next to ivermectin, there was a bullet point right above dizziness that you see is the number 1 right now. There was actually, the number 1 adverse event said, generally well tolerated by all. And I literally stand in front of audiences and circle with a laser pen the term generally well tolerated by all. Notice which one and only side effect they removed from that chart. You don't think they're paying attention to Dr. Ardis? Yeah, I've got their attention. All right, so you just need to know that they are going to take every attempt to thwart the ability to use other treatments that are proven safe and effective. Hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine are way safer than remdesivir. Ivermectin, way safer than remdesivir. But they don't want you to know that it is approved or safe. So they're going to continue, as we unveil things that they're hiding from you, they're going to change that information to keep you confused, lost, and only use remdesivir. Right now, this chart only says remdesivir is the only FDA-approved drug. Right now. So everyone needs to get an advanced medical directive to physicians form and a medical power of attorney form and have it at home. You can get that at the drardisshow.com if you want. We have one written there by an attorney. You got to have this in place up front. Next slide. Okay. Everyone needs to know this resource, c19early.com. It's a one-page website, updated every day, and they look at all research studies from around the world of every nutrient, every over-the-counter medication, and every drug being prescribed to treat COVID-19 hospitalized patients. This is the update as of yesterday, January 13th. Look where remdesivir falls on overall mortality for everything being used around the world. Mortality. The first column says improvements in COVID hospitalized patients and their percentages if using any of those things. Remdesivir is at the very bottom at 19% success. Everything else just about has a better outcome than remdesivir worldwide. Next slide. Early treatment studies are also on this list, or on this, that gets updated daily. They actually give you the percentages of improvement for early treatment. I'm going to do you all a favor. If you actually will just look at this every day, if you want to know what's better than any drugs being prescribed, hospital protocols being suggested, just look at this actual page every day, c19early.com. I'm going to do you a huge favor. There are multiple nutrients on here. If you look at vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, zinc, if you look at those, they all have better outcomes than remdesivir does. And I'm going to put up on the slide, next slide, take a picture. I went ahead and did this for you. Every nutrient that outperformed the drugs, I actually put them up here. And I put the link that you go directly to that has all the research studies and the doses that I put up here that they found were better to beat COVID-19 considered early treatment. These are all natural. Take the pictures, share it with everybody, and then go and fact check it all by going to those links. One of the things that are miraculous that have always been in the top 80%, 90% is iodine sprayed into the nose, gargled in the mouth. Why? This is a respiratory infection. Gets inside your nose and inside your mouth. Gargle, povidone, iodine. The instructions on how to do it, I put it there for you so you can have it. Next slide. 144 plus studies now confirm on brownstone.org that natural immunity is far superior after getting COVID-19 infection than the vaccinated immunity. Paul Elias Alexander, I'll give him the credit. He's the one compiling all this work. Thank you for all you do. It allows us to educate audiences. Brownstone.org, 144 studies, and I want to point out one. One out of the 144. I don't know how many you need to convince you that God is greater than man's creation of vaccines. There's 144 for you, right here, proving it. The European Journal of Immunology published, and it was peer-reviewed September 14th of this year. September 24th of 2021. And they confirmed that 13 months later after infection, you had robust immunity after having COVID-19. Pfizer and Moderna right now are telling you their immunity only lasts 6 months. Already natural immunity as of September was proving natural immunity is twice as good as their artificial immunity. Trust in what God created. Stop trusting that man is telling you they created something in a lab that makes God's creation better. He never did. Here's 144 studies plus, and they will continue to grow. Anyone, and I mean anyone, who tells you to trust a vaccine over God's creation, don't trust them. Trust in God, trust in your own immunity, and give your body the stuff God put on earth, like that list I gave you of the nutrients and plants that support the human body He created. Everything on earth He put on here for you. I'm Dr. Ardis. Y'all be safe.